Hey guys, back again with another review on Fire Emblem Conquest, and I was considering doing a review on all three as Fire Emblem Fates, basically when I've gone through all the games, because I do plan to go through Birthright and Revelations, but Revelations doesn't come out, I think, until another week or so, but I am going to be starting Birthright, but I figured I might as well do a review on the games when I finish them, and then kind of compare them when I review Revelations, I think. And, you know, to give my opinion on Conquest, because I think most people started off with Birthright. It's the easier of the two games, and it's the good path, basically, as far as the storyline goes. So, yeah, I got Conquest here. I could have started with Birthright because I did get it downloadable, but I figured, you know what, let's go with the opposite game, the game that most people aren't going to go with first, and see what that's like. And yeah, I love this game. I think this game is fantastic. As far as gameplay goes, I think it's better than Awakening in pretty much every way. Now, in terms of story, I think it's not as good. I think it's actually kind of disappointing from a story standpoint in some ways. But yeah, let's talk about story. Let's talk about the story first. So obviously you've got the three different games, and I guess we should talk about that first, where the first 6 chapters of Birthright and Conquest are the exact same, where you kind of start off, your main character is Corrin, and he's a part of this Noir family. I think that's how it's pronounced. And the leader, the king of this family is King Garen, and you start off with your family, and you're trying to conquer the Hoshido. I think that's what it's called. Why can't I remember at this? The Hoshido. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, Hoshido kingdom. You're trying to conquer that kingdom, but the king's evil. Right off the bat, they really force this down your throat. The fact that this king is evil, and the side that you're on might not be the best, might not be the greatest. And when you reach chapter 6, you have a choice to make whether to go with your birth family, which is the Hoshido, where you are actually born to that family, but you were kind of kidnapped by the Noir side, and you kind of grew up with the Noir side, or do you want to stick with the Noir side? And that's the side you'll be on with Conquest. And the story, basically, you're trying to take down, trying to take down the king from within, because you, along with all of your siblings, know that this guy is evil, that this king is evil, as well as some of his henchmen, and you want to take him down. And this is actually where the story is a bit lame and has some issues, because there's multiple times in the storyline where the king will force you to do something evil, and basically the story comes up with these bullshit ways of getting around that. And I can't really spoil it. I'm going to have to be a little bit vague with the story here, because to really explain properly why the story is pretty stupid at multiple points and is just absolutely ridiculous at others, it would really spoil things. But yeah, it's basically the king hates your guts. He hates your own son's guts, and there's multiple times where you defy him, where you disobey his orders. And ordinarily, the king would just be like, "Well, I'm going to kill you," because he's so over the top evil. But of course, the story, you can't have that in the story, so they come up with these really stupid ways to get around that, and it's just there's all these really stupid events that happen throughout the story, and they just keep adding up. And there's some twists later where a certain character, that character's identity, a lot of the characters in your party are kind of surprised at a certain character's identity during a cutscene, which is it's absolutely ridiculous how any of them would not know who that really was. But so the story is disappointing in some ways. The ending, I think, is fairly satisfying in Conquest, but it's just weird because you play this really righteous character. Corrin is this really righteous character. All your siblings are good people, and yet you're constantly just taking orders from the king and not even actually trying to kill him. Which that again would go into spoilers as well. But again, there's some really stupid story reasons for that as well. It's just kind of a mess. But I can't say that it wasn't entertaining. I was thoroughly entertained by this story, mostly because the villains are so over-the-top evil. This king, he is relentlessly evil. It's pretty hilarious, and the one henchman that he sends out to kind of mess with your missions, because you basically show mercy to all the people you're fighting during missions. And there's this guy the king sends out with you, called Hans, and his character image is like this really, he just looks like this really over the top evil guy, and he's just the stuff he does to mess with you is just hilarious. Like I laughed at multiple points. You're meant to hate these villains, and you do. I really did hate these villains, especially the king. But it's also funny. I gotta say, I laughed at a lot of the dialogue, and the dialogue, it's not terribly well written in a lot of spots. It's pretty corny and cheesy in other spots, but the characters are good. I do like the characters here. It's a great cast of characters. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, the story is a little. I'm probably not doing the best at explaining things, but it would go into spoiler territory. But there's a lot of stupid shit in the story for sure. Fire Emblem's story wasn't all that complex, and I do like the whole. But it worked. Like, the story in Awakening worked, and I do like the whole family angle here, where you choose your own family, and you have a different side, and the story is different depending on what game you go with. But I don't think they did the best they could with this concept, basically. But the character, I really like the characters. The character, I guess I'm the female character I went with for like the marriage. Because you can only marry one character. I went with Camilla, who's kind of the girl with the giant tits, but I don't know, for whatever reason I liked her more than a lot of the other characters. But the characters in general are good. But the story is not great, but at the same time it's entertaining. Now, gameplay, I'm not gonna go too in depth, because it's if you played Awakening, you'll know what to expect here. It plays very similarly, but I guess I'll say the differences. And for one, like, Birthright and Conquest are different in terms of mission objectives. Where, like, Birthright is similar to Awakening, where objectives are usually just kill all the enemies on a map or kill a boss. With Conquest, it's meant to be more challenging, so you have more varied objectives. Now, there are still missions where you have to kill a boss or kill all the enemies. There's also a lot of seizing missions where you have to kill a certain boss and then seize the point that boss is on. But you also have some random maps that have different objectives. For instance, one map you have wind that kind of is flowing throughout the map, and it pushes your units kind of like up 5 spaces and down 5 spaces, so you have to actually pay attention to that. And actually that was the only map in the game that I thought was actually kind of annoying. But there's a map where you have to survive for 10 turns. There's a map where if you don't complete it within 16 turns, you lose. So you got those kind of different objectives. There's one where you have to push from the bottom of the map all the way to the top and have all your units escape. And so the objectives are varied, and it was different compared to Awakening. And it was kind of refreshing for me, because Awakening was kind of the same objectives over and over again. So that's another reason why I decided to go with Conquest right after Awakening. And another difference with Conquest and Awakening is the progression of the game. In Birthright, you have random encounters basically on the world map that you can do after each mission to kind of grind up like weapon proficiencies, or grind up your character's support levels, or get experience. You can also do some invasion battles, which there are invasion battles in Conquest, but there's only like 3 of them, I think. And in Conquest, you're just going from mission to mission. You have no extra opportunity to get experience, so you can't really grind. And that obviously makes things quite a bit more challenging as well. You have limited resources, you have limited amounts of money, and this was a big problem in the early game, where you just didn't have a lot of money to buy a lot of the weapons from the shop in your castle. Eventually, towards the end, you started to get a good chunk of change, but for at least the first half of the game, you really had to make your money count, and the experience you earn in battle count. And this is something that I enjoyed in some aspects, and in some ways I didn't. Now, it's refreshing because it's something I'm not used to, and I really felt like you had to make, like, the decision making in general was more important. You really had to take that into account. You had to buy the best weapons, and you had to make the most of the money and experience you had. But at the same time, it can be a bit annoying because there's a lot of characters you'll get where their weapon proficiencies will start really low compared to a lot of your other more powerful characters, and to grind them up is really annoying because they're just going to die, like they're just going to get like one-shotted, and their weapons they're going to be using weak weapons in the beginning. So getting some of your weaker characters leveled up with the rest of your party was actually pretty frustrating, especially towards the end of the game, where I had to actually just resort to a lot of my OP units. One character in particular, Xander. He is just insane. He's a paladin character. Like, he just carried me through most of the game, and I had to actually use those characters and to kind of help me get through a lot of these maps. And I should mention, I played this game on casual normal mode, so I did not put permadeath on. Permadeath, I honestly, after getting through this game, I'm glad I didn't put that on. It would have been frustrating as fuck. Because, yeah, Conquest, this game is fucking hard, man. Like, seriously, I was on the easiest mode possible other than the Phoenix mode, which, in Phoenix mode, your characters will come back after they've died on the next turn, which I don't really understand the point of that mode. Like, it's optional, so it's not a huge deal, but that just completely removes any sort of challenge. But even with the permadeath off and on the normal mode, you can also bump it up to hard or lunatic. It was very challenging. It started off manageable. I was able to get through the maps at first, but around Chapter 10 is when the game really gets tough. And it just got harder and harder, these missions. I would lose like half my team on most of the missions until like the very end of the game, where the last few missions I actually got through them pretty okay. And then there's the last mission, which, holy fuck, is the last mission insane in this game. Like, it took me, I think, like 5 tries to get through it. I got game over 5 times, and it's this 2-part battle where you can't save before the last part of it. And the final boss is just ridiculous. This final map is actually really frustrating. Like, I think that the spike in difficulty at the very end was just way too much. Like, it's almost, because I feel like it was made to be difficult because they know that your characters, you'll be fine with them dying because it's the last map of the game. So they just went overboard and made it like ridiculously difficult. So yeah, it can be frustrating at times, and I'll admit I'm bad at strategy RPGs, so that could be a big reason why. But like, I'm just thinking, like, on lunatic mode with like permadeath turned on, like, I don't even see how this game is possible. But I mean, people do it, and if you're planning on playing this with permadeath, good luck. Like, yeah, like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, it was hard enough on without it. But yeah, if you're looking for a challenge, you'll definitely find it here. And I think a lot of people have definitely appreciated that aspect to Conquest. So some of the new things with Fire Emblem Fates in general, you have a castle feature where after every mission you come back to your castle, where you can kind of like build it up, and you can like build shops and things like that to buy weapons at. You can buy like you can get like a hot spring that you can add. There's all these different things that give you all these sorts of benefits. And, this doesn't dramatically change the game, but I actually prefer it to the world map of Awakening, where you just go to random shops that you find across the world. Like, upgrading your own stores in your own castle, I thought was actually pretty rewarding, and it's just this nice safe haven that you keep returning to, and events will just pop up randomly, support conversations will get increased if you've got certain characters in your castle. There's a lot of, like, humorous events that you can find throughout as well. So, it's this fun little feature that doesn't dramatically alter the game in any meaningful way, but at the same time, I thought it was pretty fun and rewarding. It was something I always enjoyed coming back to. You also have these invasions that you can do against online players and then also NPCs, and the online part of this game is busted from what I've seen, because you can visit high-ranking players' castles, and you can just rush the throne and seize it, and you win instantly, and the enemy units won't even come at you. Like, they won't even attack you. And if you do this, you can recruit a character from this random online person, and you can recruit level 40 characters right in the beginning of the game. It's baffling that this somehow made it into the game, and not only that, you can get really overpowered skills from these other players that have like these really high ranked castles. So the online portion, if you really want to use it, you can completely break the game with it. I really don't know why they made it like that, because the invasion system is cool in theory. I just think the reward should have been a little less powerful, to be honest. To the point where I didn't even bother using the feature once I saw how crazy that was, that you could have a level 40 right in the beginning of the game on your team and keep recruiting those characters and get all these overpowered skills. It was pretty ridiculous, but overall, I do like this home base castle feature that this game's got. I'm trying to think other things. The game has like this feudal kind of feudal Japan theme overall. Like the Hoshido Kingdom is very like feudal Japan influenced, and with that you have new classes. One of the new classes I enjoyed playing with was the ninja, and then of course promoting that ninja to a master ninja. He was really weak in the early game, but by the end of the game he was just destroying everything. So that the game has this like nice kind of feudal Japanese flavor to it that I thought was pretty appealing. The weapon triangle is a little different. I'm not going to go into that, but it's a little different. The pair-up system is still in the game, of course. You have your support conversations. When they get to S, you can marry characters. You have kids returning, and the story reason for having kids is so stupid, because they have to come up with these really far-fetched premises to get to have the kids be like an aspect of the game. But as far as gameplay goes, it's still really enjoyable. The kid characters, as with Awakening, are some of the most powerful units in the game. I really enjoyed seeing all these support conversations when you came back to your castle, and seeing the relationships between all the different characters, and a lot of like the funny dialogue between them. Pairing up is actually stronger when you have two characters just standing next to each other and not actually physically pairing them up, which I definitely appreciated that, because that was one of my minor complaints with Awakening. Other than that, like, accuracy is more important in these games. In Awakening, I felt like accuracy, you always had like 95% chance or higher to actually hit your enemies, but in this game, accuracy is far lower on a lot of your weapons, so it makes things more challenging and more tactical, because you really got to take into account what weapons are equipped on your characters, and durability is removed from Awakening, which is awesome. I think this was a great change, and I think that's one of the reasons why they reduced accuracy overall in this game. But multiple characters can equip multiple different types of weapons. There's obviously some new ones, shurikens that the ninjas get, katanas, although that might have been on Awakening. I think that was, but there's some new stuff. Magic users are nowhere near as overpowered in this game as they were in Awakening. Like, I thought they just were way too overpowered in Awakening, but this game, they're strong, but at the same time they're very fragile, and they'll get killed quite often if you're not careful. But yeah, I think that's all. Like, the customizing your castle feature is the main thing. But it generally plays quite similarly to Awakening. But all the gameplay improvements, while not major, are definitely welcome, and the game just plays better than Awakening. Like I said, the map designs are much better overall, I think. The challenge level is definitely there too, but it's going to be interesting going to Birthright with the less varied objectives. But being able to grind is going to be nice, because I can experiment more with characters. Like, I found I didn't want to experiment too much, because a lot of characters were too weak, and I really had to stick with my strong characters and make sure that they were getting experience, because I couldn't really grind. But yeah, overall gameplay-wise, it's incredibly enjoyable, really addictive. Couldn't put it down. Took me 28 hours, so it's not too long either. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's about as long as Awakening, but yeah, really great stuff as far as gameplay goes. Visuals, it looks about the same as Awakening. Some really nice 3D character models when you're actually doing the combat. Some really nice 2D sprites and 2D artwork. A lot of the character designs are very anime-esque, especially compared to the older Fire Emblem games. You have some weird character designs. Like, Camilla is just like pure fan service, basically. But Yeah, it's a great looking game. Again, like with Awakening, I think it's one of the best looking games on the 3DS. And again, I like the whole feudal Japan setting that the game has. I think it's quite well done. But audio wise, it's still got the terrible like voice quips that Awakening have that are really distracting and really take away from the audio experience of the game. I really wish it had full voice acting. So yeah, that was a bit of a bummer. The soundtrack, on the other hand, though, is amazing. Like Awakening had a good soundtrack. It wasn't amazing, but it was good. This game, though, wow, so many great songs, a lot of great melodies. Again, a lot of those songs have a kind of old-fashioned Japanese kind of sound to them. I don't know how to best to describe that, but there's a lot of like sadder songs that play sometimes. Some really like sweeping orchestral music in there as well. Really varied, actually. A very varied soundtrack. Really, and I think actually the soundtracks are different in Conquest and Birthright, so it's going to be interesting hearing the differences between the two. But yeah, a stellar soundtrack. It really surprised me. A lot of these songs were just great. I really loved how you could pick a song that plays during your castle segments. I thought that was really cool as well. But yeah, phenomenal soundtrack. Really, really surprised me. But yeah, I mean, I think that's about it with Fire Emblem Fates Conquest. Highly recommended, especially if you enjoyed Awakening. Now, I don't know whether I can say it's a good one to start with. I have to play Birthright first. It depends on what you're looking for, but if you're looking for a challenge and more varied maps, and everything I've said sounds appealing to you, you might want to start with Conquest first. But I'm definitely excited to see Birthright, to see what the story's like in that, and especially Revelations, which is kind of like a neutral path from what I've heard. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite games of the year so far. Granted, I haven't played too many games, but games for 2016. But I guarantee you, this is going to make my list. Although it depends on whether I enjoy Birthright more. I have a feeling I might, because I'm a more casual player, but I did like the different map designs in this one for sure. And I think hardcore, like long-time hardcore Fire Emblem fans are going to enjoy this more than Birthright. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. But yeah, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.